On behalf of Rovini College of Engineering and Technology, myself, Justin Leo, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering Department, welcome you all for this welding technology course. And the course code is PR8592, and this is a professional elective subject for the regulation 2017. So in this video lecture, we'll be studying about gas and arc welding process, Unit 1. And before going in depth to the chapter, the syllabus, and you have the objectives. So in objectives, the main objectives is to understand the basics of welding and to know about the various types of welding process. So Unit 1, you have this gas and arc welding processes, and you will be studying about the fundamental principles, different types of gas welding like air acetylene welding, oxy-acetylene welding, and arc welding process. You'll be studying about carbon arc welding, sheet-drilled metal arc welding, submerged arc welding, TIG and MIG welding, plasma arc welding, electroslag welding processes, and you'll be studying the advantages, limitations, and applications of all this gas and arc welding processes. So Unit 2, that is resistance welding processes. You'll be studying about the various types of resistance welding process like spot welding, seam welding, projection welding, resistance butt welding, flash butt welding, percussion welding, and high frequency resistance welding processes, and its advantages, limitations, and applications. Unit 3 is a solid state welding process. So you'll be studying about the cold welding, diffusion bonding, explosive welding, ultrasonic welding, friction welding, forge welding, roll welding, and hot pressure welding processes, and its advantages, limitations. Coming to the Unit 4, you'll be studying about the solid state welding process. So the various solid state welding process like spot welding, seam welding, projection welding, resistance butt welding, flash butt welding, percussion welding, and high frequency resistance welding processes. And you'll be studying about the advantages, limitations, and applications of various solid state welding. In Unit 5, you'll be studying about the design of weld joints, weldability, and testing of weldments. So you'll be studying about the various weld joint designs, weldability of aluminum, copper, and stainless steels, destructive and non-destructive testing of weldments. And this is the textbooks and the reference books. So what would be the course outcomes? Upon the completion of this course, the students will be able to compare various types of gas and arc welding process. And in Unit 2, they will be able to explain the various principles of resistance welding process and various process parameters influence on the performance. In Unit 3, they will be able to illustrate the working of various types of solid state welding process. Unit 4, the students will be able to choose the suitable welding process for aerospace, nuclear, and automobile industries. Unit 5, the students will be able to compare different types of welding process for effective welding of aluminum, copper, and stainless steels, and to apply the concepts of quality controls and testing of weldments in industrial environment. So the introduction of welding. So welding is a material joining process which produces coalescence of materials by heating them to certain temperature with or without application of pressure, or by the application of pressure alone. And either they use a filler material or they don't use a filler material. So welding is used for making a permanent joint in metals, and it is used in the manufacture of automobile bodies, aircraft frames, railway wagons, machine frames, structural works, tanks, furnitures, boilers, general repair works, and shipbuilding. So application of welding, it is used for making permanent joints, and it is used in the manufacture of automobile bodies, aircrafts, frames, railway wagons, machine frames, structural works, tanks, furnitures, boilers, general repair work, and shipbuilding. So basically, there are two main types of welding. One is plastic welding or pressure welding. The other one is fusion welding or non-pressure welding. So plastic welding, the piece of the metal to be joined or heated to a plastic state, and it's forced together by external pressure. For example, the resistance welding. And fusion welding or non-pressure welding, so the material at the joint is heated to a molten state and it is allowed to solidify, and the weld is formed after solidification. So the example for solid state welding, fusion welding or non-pressure welding is the gas welding and arc welding. And you have this classification of welding processes. Arc welding, you have different types of arc welding like carbon arc welding, metal arc welding, metal inert gas welding, tungsten inert gas welding, plasma arc welding, and the submerged arc welding, electroslag welding. So in gas welding, you have oxyacetylene welding, air acetylene, and oxyhydrogen welding. And in resistance welding, you have butt welding, spot welding, seam welding, projection, and percussion welding. And the fourth one is the thermit welding. And the fifth is the solid state welding. Here you have this friction, ultrasonic, diffusion, and explosive welding. And newer welding is electron beam and laser beam welding. And the related process are oxyacetylene cutting, arc cutting, arc facing, bracing, and soldering. So advantages of welding. So the advantages of welding is the metals are joined together to form a strong and tight joint, and it is cost effectiveness, simplicity of welded structure designs. Welding processes may be machinized and automated. And the disadvantages of welding is internal stresses, distortions, and changes of microstretches in the weld region, harmful effects, light, ultraviolet radiations, fumes, and high temperature. And the applications of welding. Welding can be used in buildings and bridges structures, in automotive ship and aircraft constructions. It's used for pipelines and for fabrications of tanks and vessels. It's used in the railroads and in machinery elements. So with this, we come to an end to this introduction part of this first unit. So thank you and have a great day.